It just says Andy Borowitz, and then I drew a little heart under it, like I'm signing a middle school yearbook.
David Sedaris said, comedy is really hard unless you're funny. And that kind of makes a lot of sense, which is that if you're funny, your natural instinct is to say things in a way that makes people laugh, as opposed to, I wouldn't be a very good pundit. I'm impressed when I hear people on TV who are very serious and can say things in a very grown-up way, because that's just not really my forte. Never has been. I'm more like the class clown. You guys can go out now.
Iowa and Arkansas. So
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Hi, Bruce.
Bruce. Hey!
I tweeted at you.
Oh, excellent. I'll check it out. I know. I need you guys. I need you guys just to keep my demographic.
That was my favorite one. That was.
Well, I could think of just so many stories of his that are great. There's a story, The Incident at the McWilliams, which is really a funny story about raising a family and sort of male-female, husband-wife conflict. That was one I considered, but there are just too many great. He wrote so many stories. He was so prolific. I just thought that story, A Presidential Candidate, was so timeless because it feels like it was written maybe yesterday. I remember reading Life on the Mississippi. That was like a great book that I read. I don't know why I got into that and what made me read it, but you know, I just don't think you can read American literature and somehow skip Mark Twain. I mean, first of all, I'm always nervous about any comparisons between me and Mark Twain. However, we both do use pens, so I will say that. And I guess we both do write satire along with a lot of other people. I think one of the definitions of satire is that satire has to have a worthy target. You have to have something that you want to take down. And I think there's a confusion about what satire is. A lot of people think, well, fake news is just satire. If you write something silly and it's fake news, and that's satire. News satire is a word that gets thrown around a lot. I think really the satire that holds up, and I'm happy with when I've written it, is something where there was a good target. There was some form of hypocrisy or lying or greed, and I tried by being funny to shine a light on it. And fortunately, we live in kind of a target-rich environment right now. There just seems to be so much heinous behavior. But I'm sure Mark Twain felt the same way about the 19th century in America. I don't think humans essentially change. I think our human nature is always pretty despicable, and those of us who write satire always find plenty of things to write about. Well, I think I made the comparison to Shakespeare before. I think Mark Twain is relevant today sort of the way Shakespeare is, and that I think he gets to these essential truths about people. And whereas there are other writers in Twain's times who were writing about contemporary events in a way that now is kind of indecipherable to us, we can't really figure it out. Mark Twain was writing about what he saw around him, but he somehow made it all very universal. And I've even noticed that Mark Twain is so quotable. If he were alive now, he would be on Twitter and he would just be killing Twitter. I mean, he was quotable and pithy. So he could, not that writing for Twitter is the world's greatest accomplishment, but I just think that I just raised that as an example of how his style and his universality has traveled